Hello, in this video I will introduce you to a domestic edging sewing machine. Yes, a machine that only does edging or finishing. It's also called purl edge, baby hem, mirroring, sometimes called rolled hem, or a one needle overlock. But be aware there's also a difference. FYI, most sergers can be converted to this kind of stitch by removing one needle to the left. But the main difference is this particular machine is specific for edging and it only works on select fabrics. I bought this machine just to study it. I like learning different machines. This was made in Japan, maybe 1970s or 1980s. For my research, this FR line of sergers were actually made by Kawasaki, known by their brands of motorcycles, skis, boats, and other mechanical parts for industries. But not many people know that Kawasaki also made sewing machines. Not to distract you from this topic, I have to mention that I have two other sewing machines made by Toyota also. Known for their cars, yes, Toyota also made sewing machines under the guise of different brands. Kawasaki and Toyota, earlier in the days, attempted to enter the sewing machine market, not as successful as the Singer brands and others. Back to this machine, it took me 3 weeks, yes 3 weeks to figure out what this machine is really about. It stumped me big time. First, there's very little information about these machines. I have no manual, and so begins my quest to solve this mystery machine. First off, I threaded this blindly with no manual and going with my other experience with my other sergers. Just to dramatize this video, I will start introducing you to this machine with the good, the bad, and the ugly. But stick around because I actually solved this mystery and I am happy to share it with you. The good. The motor is so awesome to listen to. It's humming almost as if it's singing, according to me. That's a serious compliment to describe a sewing machine. FYI, I developed also a familiarity with different sewing machine sounds. Very nice to hear a machine that sounds happy. The bad. It took me 2 days to realize that, hello, there is no bulb here. What the? It is so hard to thread a sewing machine with no bulb. Look, there's a light on the on button, but there is no bulb light on where it matters most, here. Also, this is a small machine. Everything is so tight. Earlier domestic sergers were difficult to thread because many of them were made in Japan and are small, way too tight to thread. This is the only serger I own that I have to open the throat plate just to thread the upper looper. Okay, fine, but it gets worse. The needle that came with it is so small. A regular overlock thread is barely enough to fit the eye of the needle. It took forever to thread this one running needle here. If you didn't know this already, the smaller the size of the needle, the smaller the eye of the hole. So I assume this came with the original needle that should be used in this machine, which tells me that it's only for lightweight fabric. The machine was also clean when I got it, which tells me this was barely used, probably because of the following things I'm about to tell you. This machine can do edging stitch with or without the blade. However, it's both very choosy what fabric it wants to sew. Unless you cut your fabric very straight and familiar with feeding the fabric correctly. For most overlockers, if you don't cut straight, it's okay. By feeding it to the blade, the machine will straighten your cut and you get a nice finish. But not this machine. My first thought was, oh no, the blade was dull. Or this could be broken machine or a lemon machine because I couldn't make it work. So I ordered new sets of blades, and that took about a few weeks to show up. But when it finally got here, my blades, it's the wrong size. I was not surprised because, this is a rare machine. But the whole time I was waiting for my blade, I just needed to connect the dots on what is really going on. So I kept testing it with different fabrics like cotton, flannel. It does not like it. Even sewing a knit on this is a bear. It's not the same as any other serger I owned. So I shifted my test to soft drapey fabrics like sheer, polyester, silky, organza, silk, actual silk, lace, chiffon, and even tulle netting. It slowly dawned on me, when it comes to using the blade, it only likes the organza fabric. I repeat, you can still sew edging on many other types of fabric, but you need to be mindful on your cutting straightly, but you need to be mindful on cutting your fabric correctly and feed it correctly to line it up. In other words, the blade works on select fabrics, and it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense to me. Why would they sell a machine that is very choosy on what it likes to sew? To understand this machine is to turn back the hands of time. This machine was made for a specific period where sewing and fashion culture was different. If this was intended for wedding gowns, then yeah, it makes sense. Say, making bridal gowns, veils, scarves, and other delicate finishes to soft fabrics. It can do handkerchiefs, napkins, and rolled hem also on cotton and stiff fabric. But you need to really pay attention to what you are doing. In the early days, to buy these products, especially bridal gowns, there was no internet. Local seamstresses or hobby sewer made their own wedding gowns from scratch. Many wedding seamstresses these days do alterations only. Back in the very early days, the culture was different when it comes to fashion on sewing. There was pride and joy in making bridal gowns from scratch. This machine was intended to supplement the sewing room. A dedicated sewing machine just to do hem on soft fabrics, or a dedicated machine to make handkerchiefs or silk scarves. I get it now. It makes sense to have a separate machine to do specialty sewing. And so this is what this machine is about. A supplement to an overlocker and to a sewing machine, and it does edging only. There is a brand of industrial machines called Mero that popularized these edging machines. Pretty sure Juki competes with them, but Mero brands have been in the business for much longer. The word Merrowing, Mero stitch, one needle pearl stitch, edging machines, even patch machines, synonymous to this type of edging finishes. And Mero is a brand famous for different lines of products that can do this. Now, these machines are also very difficult to thread. Truth be told, a regular sewing machine simply cannot do other types of sewing application. So this mini lock machine here that we're talking about is the domestic offering, a version of the Mero sewing machine for edging. Now it makes sense. So if you heard of a rolled hem, edging hem, pearl hem, baby hem, 3-thread overlock, they kind of are the same, but depending on the finish that you want, or for the sewing machine that you are using, or the foot attachment that you're using, they can also vary. In other words, these names can also overlap. This machine is a finishing edging machine. What's a construction machine versus an edging machine? And how does it fare? I tried to seam two fabrics together and I noticed that the stitches are so close to the edge. It may or may not be a secure stitch for a real garment. Depends on the fabric too, and definitely not recommended for fabrics that are prone to stress. With that being said, it all makes sense, of course, that the needle position is calibrated so close to the edge. The cutting blade position is so distinct that it won't cut midweight and heavy fabrics. It only pretty much works on a organza if I want to use the blade. Other applications, you have to be familiar with feeding the fabric and cutting it correctly to maximize the use of this machine. So I conclude this machine was made to do specialty finishing. The lesson here is the more specialized a machine is, the more it can do it better. Yes, it's a happy sewer, but only if the operator understands what it can actually do. Understand its limitation. It's quality-made machine, no doubt. So I paid $38 for this, including shipping on this machine in an auction site that nobody else wants. It is well worth the money to study it, and I like that it schooled me big time, and here I am sharing my experience with you. I hope you learned something too. I am glad I got this machine, as it may easily confuse or puzzle most people what this machine is really about. There are other brands that sell 3-thread overlocker, but they're mostly cut many different fabrics, not this one. And because this is a puzzling machine at first, no wonder the machine looked like it was never used when I got it. Very clean. Whoever used to own it gave up on it. I felt like I got a brand new machine, frozen in time. Misunderstood. For me, this is a unique machine that nobody wants anymore. The look of it is very unappealing to the modern consumers. For those who mistaken this machine as a Juki, it's not made by Juki. What's also different about it is the hand wheel. It moves every time it stitches. That is a unique feature for an overlocker machine. Once it is threaded, by the way, the movement of the threads are so efficient and secure. I never had any runaway thread. And whoever came up with this design, although it never took off successfully, had the best intentions to solve a specific problem or need that some of us may have. It's still working after all these years. And the big twist is, all this mystery could have saved me time if I only believed what was in front of me the whole time. It does say mini lock here. It's staring at me. It says it's right here. Mini. Tiny. Baby. Very specific. I put together this video to share some insight with you that different machines can do different things. And this machine is a prime example of specific needs, specific applications that you might want to do in the future or thinking about it. I hope you learned something from this video. Speaking of babies, I'm showing off my baby hem stitches to the baby geese. And they don't like it, and I get a cry. Thank you for watching.